スター逃げろ。誰でも音できる、誰でもスピード稼げる、ガバナンスまである。中集権のメディアはもう終わりだ。
真相から立ち上るインクと真実がぶつかる。リバヤさんニュース開かれるに嘘はない。読んで書いて氷結しろ。力はみんなのもの。いい霞をたたえろ。ニュースは君のものだ。
レバヤさんニュース、レバヤさんニュース。
What's up, everyone? DAdvisoor here, Leviathan News. I'm here with Tyler for another show of Vault Report with Vaults FYI. How are you, Tyler? What's up?
Doing great, doing great. Good to see you once again.
You too, man. Been a while. And thank you so much for preparing a lot of interesting stuff for us today, like you've shared with me on Telegram. Looking forward to get it. You know what? Actually, before I present like the weekly SQUID Pass holders and start sharing the link all around, maybe give us like a few tips. Like what are we going to talk about today? What have you got for us?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think since we last chatted, like some more hacks happened, you know, this big drift hack happened, like every day something crazy in DeFi, right?
Wow. The drift, did we stream before the resolve or after the resolve and before the drift?
I was wondering that. If we did last stream, like after the resolve, you know, is I think before everything had worked its way out, like, you know, it was still unclear what that was affecting. You know, now there are morpho vaults that are losing or like recognizing that they lost funds and things like that. So yeah, a lot's happened since we last chatted.
That's actually going to be very interesting to discuss. I haven't even thought about that. What else have you got?
Yeah, so, you know, I think everything kind of connects together because it's like since then rates have been down. I think if you look at like, if you're following things on crypto Twitter, everyone's super bearish. They're like, why is anyone putting their money in DeFi? This is terrible. You know, there's a lot of conversation on like, why are rates so low? And like, you know, kind of like some pretty interesting conversations, more theoretical around like rates on chain should be higher. Why aren't they? I think we can dive into that a little bit. I think with that too, it's like we're seeing more stuff as there's just like so much money, especially stable coins on chain, looking for somewhere to put their money. There's like more tokenized RWAs coming on chain. We see Ethena saying like they're not just going to do this like crypto basis trade. They're going to expand into doing, you know, all these things like a hedge fund would do, like basis trade on traditional equities and bonds and this different stuff. And I think just in general, there's like more stuff that is not crypto native coming on chain. A few more of those products we should talk about too.
Very cool indeed. Okay, just sharing here the Telegram. Guys, if you're joining us right now, please follow us at Leviathan News on our X and YouTube where it's streamed. By the way, did you connect your channel? Are we also streaming on Vaults FYI?
We should be. I'll confirm that, but yeah, I see that.
X and YouTube as well, by the way, or just on your X?
Yeah, should be X and YouTube.
So go out there and follow Vaults FYI X and their YouTube as well. You can find Tyler at 0x7477.
Yes, sir.
That's remarkable, as they say. Really enjoy doing this format with you, I must say, Tyler. It's very refreshing
Likewise.
to have this kind of format. And shout out to you guys at vaultsfyi for doing some great work like you do. Maybe for those who are maybe watching us for the first time, can you share a few words about what vaultsfyi is and why people should check it out?
Yeah, absolutely. You mind if I share my screen too?
On the contrary, I
pictures are
prefer
worth 1,000 words sometimes,
I
right?
prefer you do. You're very true. You're very right.
Cool. So vaults.fyi, if you go to that URL, vaults.fyi, go to our app, you're going to see this, which is a place that you can find nearly 1,000 vaults from close to 80 different protocols. Find them all in one place. Get kind of standardized APY data on those. Click into one, understand like where does the yield come from. Get a deeper look into what these vaults do, how they work, and then you can actually put funds into them from our interface, interact directly with the contracts, and then on the back end, track all of your positions as well. And you can start using that even without connecting your wallet. Just put your address in here. We hope you can find some things with your DeFi wallet if you've done yield activity in the past, and just give you a better understanding of what your funds look like on chain and help you find more opportunities out there.
By the way, you've explained to me when our first interview, when we started it, that actually it's not only just for like retail user, like many different types of actors within the space can use vaultsfyi.
Yep, that's right. So, I mean, if you're like a bigger firm that's looking for yield strategies, I think we have kind of the best like clean data set on on-chain yields that's out there. So we'd love to work with you. We can help you kind of get better information feeding into your pipelines, help you backtest your strategies, so on and so forth. And then if you're building an app or you're building an AI agent that is allocating to different yield sources under the hood, then we want to help you power those apps too. So basically, instead of building 10 different integrations so you can link up with Aave, with Morpho, with Euler, with Lido, et cetera, just connect with us once, and then we'll help power all those experiences without really like inserting anything in the middle. Users still get exposure directly to the underlying smart contracts. So that's in a nutshell, that's what we can do for anyone out there.
Thank you very much for that.
Thanks for the plug.
Oh, no, of course. I do want to present, just before we get into it, I want to present the SQUID Pass winners of the week. For those of you who aren't familiar, we have the SQUID Pass auctions on Leviathan News, meaning on our website, leviathannews.xyz. What it actually means is that every week we offer using an auction the pinned posts on our Telegram and X, and people can actually, projects, whatever, they can actually purchase the slot, and the slot actually gives them not only the pinned posts on our Telegram channel and X account at Leviathan News for the week, it also gives them shout outs on our streams. And this week, again, it's our good friends from RAK, formerly known as Regnum Aurum. Let me pop up this week's post, because they have just launched something new. With some rental properties on chain. RAK put 16 rental properties. I hope people can see it on screen. RAK put 16 rental properties on chain with IREIT, launch routing 34.5K per month in tenant income through Curve. Go and check them out. They have this new article. That's the pinned post, basically. You can find them at their account at RAKfyi. RAK launches IREIT. What is IREIT? You can check out the article to really understand it. Rent coming on chain, definitely a use case I'm kind of excited about. Speaking of yield, by the way. will be interesting to see how you guys start monitoring this kind of yield, as the different types of yields that are coming on chain will start like becoming more, all over the place, as they say. So thanks very much for our friends from RackFi for sponsoring this episode. Much respect. Go check them out at RackFi on X and at raac.io, their website. All right. Let's get into it. Kind sir, what are we starting with? The hacks?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Let's chat on that. So yeah, what's even happened since we last did this vaults report? There's resolve, there's drift.
How much was resolve? Like, do you have the data? What it was like, 80 million?
No, 200 plus, I think.
Resolve?
Something like 200. Oh no, Resolve. Yes, Resolve was 80. I thought Drift was.
I think, even more than 200. I think it was closer to 300 million.
Was. Yeah. But yeah, Resolve was around 80. I think like half of that has been recovered since. Some of that, that was minted through the compromise. I think like half of it, they kind of wiped out. They burned that token. But yeah, Resolve definitely.
Are you familiar with it enough to give us like some kind of an explanation of what happened there?
I'm not an expert, so
well, roughly speaking, I'm not exactly looking for.
Yeah, because I kind of forget the details without looking it up, but I can try to cover it best in that I think somehow like admin rights inside the protocol to mint the token. I think it was the USR token. So there are two tokens.
Someone was able to mint to create a token. And then, like in the same transaction, I was told that I read somewhere that the whole thing took like 10 seconds, like when it was actually performed. Like create a new token. I don't even remember the name of that token, and then use it as collateral to mint a lot of USR against, right?
That's the drift hack. That's actually the drift.
That's the drift hack?
They did something more like that. With Resolve, It was more just kind of your someone got control of like the admin keys, and they basically were minting USR like out of thin air. And
what does it mean? Like without collateral?
Actually, I think you're right. I think they gave a really bad oracle, and like yes, by depositing like 10 USDC, they're able to mint like a million.
Okay, so you're right. Actually, it's not creating a token. You're right. I'm confusing with the drift.
So there's. We're both kind of around it, but getting through it together.
Because it's hard to really, to keep up when you think about it.
And these things are complicated too. Like, I mean, that's why the scary thing with all these hacks is like, I think after Resolve, people looked at like Stakehouse, who's the biggest curator in the space, experts, been working in DeFi for years. They kind of audited Resolve's contracts. I mean, not a formal audit, but they looked at all the contracts. They looked at their processes, even the off-chain processes, and they said, this looks pretty good. Like they kind of gave it the, a lot of the good like risk-oriented people in the space looked at Resolve and thought it was pretty solid. But there's just like always some surface out there that could be vulnerable, and a lot of ways that things can go wrong. So I think that's why it's like one of my things I've said recently is there's not really like any risk-free thing on chain. People talk about a risk-free rate. Everything has some amount of risk, and it's just like what you're willing to accept, and you should make sure you're getting compensated for the risk you're taking on chain.
Yeah, and mostly I think people should realize that there are risks. Like, I'm not saying that there aren't risks within TradFi and that there aren't like a lot of interesting opportunities on chain, but we will be naive to think that it comes without other risks. And I think that for most of us, we don't understand most of them. Like maybe some do, but I think vast majority of users, myself included, we don't understand all the risk vectors, and we make a lot of assumptions. And like wishful thinking about what's going to happen. So whatever you do, guys, try to be responsible as much as possible, and always prepare for. Also, never put all your eggs in one basket, as they say.
Yep. We're trying to help at vaultsfyi, trying to like source a little more information to help people.
vaultsfyi also covers risk parameters and stuff like that.
We do what we show as a reputation score. So I'll share it on my screen, and what we're really going to show is like just like how lindy is this thing? So how long has it existed? Has it like maintained $1 billion worth of funds for years, or is it something that just spun up a couple weeks ago and has like $20 million in it? So obviously something that has kind of withstood the test of time, that's going, you should look at it differently versus something that just popped up yesterday and it shows a high return. So I'll show Ethena again. I'm picking this one to kind of show kind of like across the board, it's high. USDE, big market cap, a lot of liquidity on chain, high volume. So we kind of give that token a high score. Ethena itself has secured billions of dollars now for a couple of years. And let's compare to like something newer, which we don't say is like necessarily bad. But like I don't actually know that much about this Upshift vault. But it's only existed for a little bit of time. It only has a handful of holders. It gets a lower score. And so that's kind of how we think about it. So we can't give you the full picture. What I was going to say with all these things, it's like, if you're watching this show, like DM me if you ever are looking into this stuff and have questions, and, generally like try to make friends in the space. There are a lot of really smart people out there. And like ask the questions on Twitter. You'll probably get a bunch of noise from, kind of shills and bots that say this vault's the greatest thing ever. But generally, if you're curious about these things, there are people out there who can help you, and we're trying to do our little part in that education.
Yeah, and the bottom line is like the responsibility always comes back to the user. Like it doesn't matter really how much you ask or like how much a specific service has been working, how well it has been working so far. Like on many levels, like I'm pretty convinced that the Resolve and the Drift users, these weren't necessarily very new services, and all of a sudden, like we aren't familiar with all the attack vectors and all like the possible compromises that there are out there. So it's very important to actually be extremely curious and to do a lot of research and to do due diligence and to actually try and only go for what you think will work. And there are no guarantees. Like with the opportunity comes a lot of risk. That's for sure.
And I would say that's like,
sorry,
that's like general financial advice, right? Like,
financial
advice, but like you're looking at finance stuff, like you should understand what you're getting into. You shouldn't YOLO into like options on Robinhood that are, way out of the money, and then something happens and your money's vanished. Like DeFi, there's plenty of risk, but there's risk in like everything in finance. And I see people on Twitter saying like, we need to tokenize these bond things and bring them on chain. And then usually the first reply is like, well, actually this bond product, lost 20% of its value because these TradFi companies defaulted. Like everything has
it's all one big scam. Let me tell you, like I had actually this talk today on our WhatsApp group with the friends, like, and my friends, I like them a lot, but they're like normies, completely normies. And
Mhm.
yeah, they have these I don't even know how to say it in English, like these pension funds, blah blah
Mhm.
blah, investment. They have these. They go invest in stocks and whatever and blah blah blah. And most people, they just choose the big difference between DeFi users and regular people is that regular people, in a way, at least those who are not into working in finance, they're just yeah, I just want someone to do it for me. So they just delegate that risk, and they do
Yep.
the same
Right.
assumption of yeah, I trust these guys because they have a great reputation. But this is just a reflection of the same thing that happens on DeFi on chain, because
Yep.
on DeFi, most of us also I trust this protocol because I don't know, they seem very smart to me, or they have good rates here or there. And I think that we're still in very early phases of all this stuff. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure that in a few years, a service like vaultsfyi will be able to measure more, to better measure the risk that some of these
Yeah.
financial vehicles contain. You will know, you will have other ideas and other thoughts about, okay, how should we really give an assumption or an assessment of the risk that this specific vault has. And it really, you have to take a lot of things into consideration. But at least on chain, if you research, you can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the very savvy and intelligent on-chain sleuths, however you say that word, they can get a lot of info. Well, I think that in normal finance, it's mostly, yeah, people trust the government that, yeah, if something really happens, the government will pay me back. I think that's the risk assumption that they're taking. But for me personally, I think one of the things, many things attracted me to DeFi eventually, but one of them was Lehman Brothers. I don't know if every Lehman Brother customer or someone who lost funds there, were they all repaid? I'm not sure. No one lost money in the subprime crisis. I'm pretty sure they have. And I remember thinking to myself, that was one of the biggest banks in the world, and it crashed. And my money is in these
Yep.
banks in Israel. So
And even
what makes me feel that it can no, I'm not doing
yeah,
it.
yeah. And with that one, I mean, even super financially savvy people were lending to Lehman Brothers, or lending in this network, and like you say, off chain usually hit some dead end where you can't see everything that you're lending against. Like you hit some closed doors, and you have to kind of take someone else's word for it. DeFi, on-chain stuff, I think now there's plenty of things that reference something off-chain, or there's some part of the contract you can't see everything about. But if you lend on Aave, Curve, Maker, Sky, there's still a lot of things where it's you can pretty much see if you dig deep enough, you can understand how to read things on Etherscan, look at smart contracts. You can basically understand everything under the hood of this. And there's gotta be some risk there, but you have full transparency into it. And so for me, that's what got me into DeFi. It's pretty cool. Same with Morpho too. These Morpho markets, you can just lend against a couple collaterals and understand how rates change as utilization changes the whole thing. And yeah, if that sounds cool to you, I would say dig in and spend some time and do your homework, and you can understand the whole thing and make up your own mind for yourself.
I agree. I'm never I don't want to ever go back. I don't want to just tell my
Yep.
banker. I don't want to have a banker, to be honest. I want to have a neobank at most. By the way, the neobank that's been actually basically the only one that I found that has been working in Israel is shutting down its card operations. I don't know, in Israel, I mean, so it's okay.
No good neobank products.
Communists are communists. And also Israel is such a tiny market, like why should most neobanks even bother, like if the regulation is like too annoying, why should they bother? This is not
So there's
like...
not like Revolut in Israel? I mean,
No.
that's the big name I know.
Actually, I was told that Revolut is coming to Israel, but I don't think it's happening yet. But with Revolut, for example, I will be able to send them like crypto and use it on a card, like the neobanks of... like it's a thing on Revolut?
I think you can, but
You can
I
send them
think that's
USDT,
possible,
for
but
example,
like,
or USDT and use it?
maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't done that with Revolut. I think you can have crypto in your account. I don't know if you can just send and then spend it. And obviously, they can like close down your account and things like that. It's not trustless in that way.
Yeah, it's actually, one of the narratives that are most interesting to me, because it's something that I can actually use, is like the neobanks. And I think that the neobanks is a very like in the making scene, because like financial services around the world are gonna change because of neobanks. Like and neobank is like such a big also definition, because what is a neobank? That it can have so many different, like is it self-custodial, is it not, like it can be all the way, but end of the day, like I think that banking as we know it won't really be the same in a few years for sure. How did you see like the big hacks, both Resolve and Drift, affect yields in the market? Like maybe take us through that a bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen again. I'll look at our analytics page here. Let me know when that's showing up. I mean, I think the same thing I've said on here the last couple times is just rates really low on chain. I actually think, the hack didn't really change things that much because rates are already super low. I think a lot of people were already kind of looking at DeFi skeptically and on-chain rates skeptically and saying, man, these rates kind of suck. I'm moving my money out. And then the flip side of that is like, there is still $100 billion of people with funds on chain. If I flip over here, that's like $40 billion plus in stable coins looking for yield. So there's still billions and billions of dollars earning like at 3%. And I think even when these protocols that, Resolve and Drift, I would say are like riskier than some of these big whales who put their funds in Aave. Aave's been there for years and they've just like left their money there sitting. And they're probably not going to move their money out of Aave, even if something else gets hacked, because they trust Aave at this point. So, I'll flip to this other thing I shared on Twitter the other day that I played with our data, and I made this tree map or heat map of DeFi yields. And this kind of gives you the idea of like how much you're earning these different places in stable coins on DeFi. And you can see like most of these big venues. So Aave, Sky, Ethena, and then a bunch of these Morpho vaults, Syrup, that makes up like most of the funds in DeFi today. And they're all earning like 3%, 4%. And I think like for all these conversations on Twitter and saying like, why is anyone doing this? And really like, if I model this out, like lending against even safe collaterals like ETH and BTC on Morpho, people should be demanding like 5 or 6% rates. These like 2-3% spreads above the risk-free rate T-bills. I agree, like theoretically, it's what should happen, but there's billions of dollars that for whatever reason, people just want to keep them on chain, whether it's like individuals or maybe it's an exchange that like is offering yield products to their customers and they have a mandate to keep those funds on chain. Or then even there's $3 billion, well, like $10 billion plus in Ethena, and Ethena funnels its money into these different Morpho vaults, and Aave, it's finding places on chain to earn yield. So it's just like there's a lot of funds that are sticky on chain because they have some mandate to stay there, or people just don't have good alternatives. And I find it like it's it's a bit counterintuitive, but even when these rates are super low, it's just I don't know. There are these funds that aren't moving elsewhere. So even when things are getting hacked and things look bad, there's still billions of dollars sitting here earning 3%. And I think because of that, like there's more and more off-chain things coming on-chain as tokenized RWAs so that they can give people some higher yields, even if like the crypto native yields are super low.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I think there is this tokenization and RWA are becoming kind of huge. It seems like it really seems like that. The industry is maturing in the sense that it's more about how financial services are being onboarded today into DeFi, rather than just unique DeFi stuff. That I'm farming this token and I'm making money out of thin air. It's much more like so many people or organizations, even institutions, like they find new ways like to just reach new audiences and new markets and just like cut a lot of costs, I guess, by going on chain. I saw it, like, for example, when I was following what was happening in Cannes at ETHCC and Stable Summit and Vault Summit. It was basically almost all takes like this, like RWA stuff, and like how the industry is not feeling like the same. It's not exactly NFT discussions and how you're gonna. It's more about like, these guys are coming on chain as well with their like funds, and they're gonna tokenize this and tokenize that, and but to your point earlier about this money staying on chain, I think even with these very low yields relatively, some people, they just feel either they only have access to funds that way, or they have like they prefer having their access on chain rather than having it off chain. Simple as that.
And there aren't many products off chain that you can like pull your funds out, instantly or like within the same day. Like a lot of things off chain, it takes some time to move your money out. If you're in these credit things like high yield bonds, they have risk too. If you're in like some fund, a lot of times you have to make a request for the redemptions. It takes days or weeks to process, where like everything I was showing on my screen a minute ago, for the most part, like you hit withdrawal, and unless there's some liquidity crunch on chain, you get your money in the next block.
One of my friends that I was talking to today on that WhatsApp group that I told you, he's like a financial investor, like in DAdvisoor, okay? And he was actually mentioning the fact that, with some of these like funds, whether it's pension funds or whatever, like they also have like a general limit of, let's say, like 5% in a month, like a collective, I think he was referring to. So they're like, no, if these guys wanted to liquidate their funds, like, and get their money before you, no, talk to us next month, because we don't want to create a liquidity crunch on the market. And it's like, if you have your money on chain on the right places, you don't have to deal with this kind of stuff. And for me personally, as I'm more and more in the space, I think what's most like in a way eye-opening is the fact that with these like the classic crypto tokens or whatever that can be used like in specific projects, like as collateral. I'm working with Frankencoin, for example. Okay, the Swiss franc stablecoin. And by the way, if you're getting 4% or 3% on dollars, you can earn like 3.75, I think today, or 3.5% in Swiss francs on Frankencoin. So shout out Frankencoin and consider that, ladies and gentlemen, as well. I must say, not financial advice, of course, but for me, what can I say? I do see it as a better deal. But I was actually preparing like this short clip of a video by the founder Lucius today, and I really like, by the way, the way he explains like these different concepts. And he actually talked about the fact that, you know, like with a CDP model, for example, like Frankencoin, like collateral deposition stablecoin, you can actually create money, meaning you can actually take your collateral and mint tokens against it, whether it's USD stable coins like you can do at Liquidity or whatever, or Franken coins like you can do at Frankencoin. But you didn't have to wait like for a lender to come and give you, like to offer you money that you can lend. You can just like create that money for yourself from collateral. And when I was speaking to my friends today, I was like, because, you know, they have these, like, God bless you, these funds, assets, whatever. But I keep telling myself, like, you know, all these assets that they have, they're so not liquid. You know what I mean? And they seriously can't do anything with them unless they either sell them or like, I don't know, because. And the beautiful thing about crypto is like, once you have an asset, like a crypto, like an on-chain asset, you can so often like get money for it. Not even if someone offers you like to lend it, but to actually do like what banks, I think, actually do. And like, yeah, you can create money against your asset. And that's like, I think, for me, one of the things that I'm like, man, I can't even explain it to them. You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't get to the bottom of my opinion, as they say. Like they won't do it anyway. But when you find like the right
tokenized assets,
it's insane. It's insane. Like, by the way, with Vaults FYI, like, is it? Like what kind of types of, like, is something like that like a CDP service? Can it be considered a vault?
Yeah, so I mean, interesting question you asked there. Like, what is a vault? I think the definition changes depending on who you ask. When we started building vaults FYI, you know, we kind of looked at vaults as like only these smart contracts that followed a certain convention, ERC 4626, that was referred to as a vault. But, you know, I think as time's gone on, we've changed our perspective on that. We've broadened the definition, and I think the industry generally has broadened its definition. That, like, I think of a vault as something that you put an asset in, and there's a set of rules on what happens with your asset once it's in those vault contracts, and the vault should be growing your funds by some activity. And when you go to withdraw your funds from that vault, you know, you should be getting more in return. So that's like the broadest definition of it, I guess. And everything we show on vaults.fyi, you know, we try to kind of make sure it fits that description, which is quite a wide swath of things.
Let's move on. What do we have next, like on your topics? I saw you have something on Ethena there.
Yeah, Ethena. I mean, I'll share my screen again on this tweet that came from Ethena. So I think we touched on some of this stuff, but it's just, you know, right now yields on chain are quite low, and a lot of that is the result of people just don't want to like take leverage through Aave, through Morpho, through these other places, or even CDP platforms like Sky. Because like usually you're borrowing in good times, you're borrowing money and then you're taking it somewhere else and you're making even more money, and you loop that and you make more and more money. But if in general the market's kind of down, like your demand to borrow isn't that high, and so yields are just low across the board. Ethena sees that. Yields on Ethena have been around like 3-4% for the past several months. TVL within Athena's dropped a lot because the yields aren't that attractive. So Ethena is saying that they're like not exactly pivoting, but they're like broadening what they can do. And so here they say, just this week, they said, USDE, the reserves behind Ethena USDE are evolving, and they're going to be able to do more things like do that basis trade. So like long one end, short the other on things besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is kind of their bread and butter. They might do that on traditional assets like Tesla. They can make lending deals off-chain, prime lending across CeFi venues and different like custodians. And then, as they say here too, like also taking some exposure to what they're saying is high quality, basically like bonds, things that aren't treasury bills, maybe like a bit riskier things. And I think that's really indicative of what's going on in the space. On-chain yields are low. People are trying to find out like what else can we kind of bring exposure on-chain for so that people can get a little bit more yield as they're searching for places to put their money on-chain.
Yeah, so basically it touches exactly on your point from earlier, actually. And it's kind of like DeFi is becoming more CeFi in a way, no?
Yeah, I mean it is
all in the chase of yield, basically.
Yeah, I mean I think I had this period where it's like, yeah, DeFi is becoming more CeFi. I don't even like it anymore, like this sucks that DeFi is now centralized and it's not this thing that I love. But the other way to look at that is like on-chain and DeFi, but I'd say on-chain more broadly, it's like it's just becoming finance, like it's swallowing everything. So there's still this pure DeFi out there, but now there's also like traditional finance on-chain. These things are somewhere in the middle on-chain, and it's just like everything's coming on-chain, which is pretty cool. If you told me that 5 years ago, I would have been really excited. So I don't know. I'm a bit more optimistic than I used to be.
I can relate. I think that like there is no other way. Like you can't have this closed garden forever, and it only like it will actually in the long run actually only increase the money that's actually DeFi, because more and more people will become aware, and more of like specific products like Liquidity, for example, like Frankencoin, like other like very much DeFi oriented stuff. Let's specifically take Liquidity actually, because it's extremely like purist in a way, like probably the most purist protocol that I know of. And like at some point, like this will grow, because people are now, because it's actually swallowing all of finance, it slowly like onboards new users who will suddenly be like more aware of stuff, and eventually might start looking at the whole decentralization vector as a risk, and some of them will want to really decentralize the products because of their own risk profile. And by the way, many won't, because many actually don't want decentralization. They actually want someone to call.
Yeah, and that's fine too.
That's even reality. Like there's no other way.
Reality,
Again, I go back again to my normie friend. Like they don't want decentralization. I cannot convince them that it's better, because it's better in my mind. In their mind, it's not. It really isn't. It's not because they don't understand or whatever. Blah, blah, blah. It's because willingly they actually think that no. We trust someone that we can go and blame or argue with or like demand our money from. Just not, with every new hack that goes by, like it's more and more difficult to argue with it. But it is nice to see that some of these projects are so like resilient, and they keep going. Like when a code is done right, it is superior. But the question always remains: like, is the code done really right?
And how do you know?
And are people really not involved? Because like we saw in the hacks, like, it was actually a 2 out of 5 multi-sigs with some social engineering stuff. So, like, all due respect, there was an intermediary, and they only needed like two individual intermediaries to get like $300 million, which
yeah. So I don't know. I hope with some of these things, people are a little bit more skeptical too. And the purist in me, back to the pure DeFi thing, I think when people are a little bit more skeptical of what they're putting their money into, then yeah, hopefully it encourages protocols to take security really seriously, to kind of present themselves as like more of this actual protocol and not like just controlled by multi-sigs. And we'll see. I mean, I think the world will end up where there's just these like centralized off-chain things that get wrapped in some contract on-chain. And even those, it's like, I think there's a lot of cases where those can be pretty safe, because take like BlackRock, Biddle, T-bill fund, it's like there's nothing decentralized about the protocol. Is pretty simple, but like the funds aren't really held on chain. So there's only like a couple surface areas where, there could be some vulnerability, some hack that like makes it lose money, as long as they don't run away with your money off chain. So there's like kind of less to trust as long as you trust BlackRock. And so back to what you're saying, like some people don't want to worry about storing their keys. They don't want to worry about if their money gets hacked, all these things. They're like, if I trust BlackRock, I'm cool with this. So yeah, it's just the universe of what's on chain expands, and there's more options out there, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, it's a natural process, and to me, like the fascinating thing to see is to see like how, like you said earlier, like slowly, like on chain is swallowing off chain, slowly, bit by
We're
bit.
winning, even if it doesn't look like it.
Like it's not, and it's not like, and you don't like, just like every battle. Like it's not clean, it's not sweep, it's not that. It's like an actual battle. An actual battle is like hill by hill, step by step. And it's messy and it's all over the place. But
yeah, it is.
But this is how it goes. Like, and in like a decade or two, I think most of the world's funds will be tokenized, and then you'll have other battles of like, okay. This is a very like centralized way of tokenizing something, but you will have more decentralized ways of something being tokenized. Like you won't have just one standard of tokenization for a specific asset. You know what I mean? Like I don't really see that happening.
Yeah,
but we'll see. What else do you have for us?
Yeah, I think like from that topic, I'll share my screen again. And just as we talk about this like hybrid on-chain, off-chain stuff and all this mix, like I'll show another thing on vaults.fyi that we just added this week and we had users asking us for, which is this APYX protocol and this product APYUSD, which like complicated thing. I mean, we give it a low risk score because it's a new protocol. Hasn't been around that long. And if you read the description, where does the yield come from? I mean, it's this like complex off-chain thing. This is, you get APX stablecoin, which is backed by MicroStrategy, or I guess now Strategy's preferred shares. And this is like Michael Saylor strategy. Yep. That company issued preferred equity shares, so sits in the capital structure. It's kind of complex stuff that's paying out like I think it's 11 or 12% dividends, and then that is moving from like this off-chain, these shares held off-chain in a custodial account, and then if you stake this stable coin, you're like earning the yield that gets distributed from that account. The yields are pretty high. Like you can see in times past is even higher, but 8-9%. But again, it's this thing like you can't redeem right away because it's not like Aave where the funds are all on chain and you just press withdrawal and your funds come the next block. Like this has a 30-day cooldown period. You submit your request to redeem. Like they're moving around funds from these custodians, and maybe redeeming these actual like traditional preferred equity instruments and getting money back and then sending it back to you. You're yawning because this is, now
No,
we're getting
on the
shot.
contrary. It's because I'm actually, for a change, I'm
joking.
trying to understand how it actually works. And it's like, because, okay, it happens off chain, but like, is there any transparency on like how the money is being generated off chain? Because I'm like, okay, yeah, it's compared to what you showed us earlier with like a 3% average yield on dollar. 9% is very enticing.
Yeah,
like people
good, right?
will want, and it touches exactly on what you said, that people are finding more and more creative ways of giving yield, and these creative ways in this era is mostly we're doing something off chain, and we'll tell you about it later. And again, it comes with these compromises, just like you said. Okay, you have like a 30-day cool down window. But how do they actually generate the money that's being delivered as yield? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I mean, so that's like they actually have like, I think, their own corporate entity behind this that is holding these shares from Strategy and other digital asset treasury companies, as they say, other DATs, and those like sit in some traditional finance custodian. Think of it like a brokerage account. Those shares sit somewhere, and then they're taking like the dividends that get paid into those accounts, those custodial accounts, and then they're putting that into the smart contract so that like anyone who has staked this token gets the share of those dividends that get put there. So to your point of like, how do I know that like those funds actually sit there in those custodians and the money moves where it's supposed to? I think that's where you got to do all your diligence. Like, I haven't looked at this long enough to tell you the ins and outs of it. That's why we try to just kind of put the information out there, put the disclaimers, say like, this is what it's doing. But
I don't know if you can know. Like, I don't think an on-chain user can actually know. Like, okay, they can read the docs, but like there's zero chance to actually know what's being done behind the scene unless you're like walking there and you know what is actually happening. No.
I mean, I'll shout out. This is, I think people are coming up with creative solutions for this. This is one I hear a lot of people talk about, Accountable, which it's kind of like you can see some different names out there of vaults here that basically like they are connecting to data that's coming from these off-chain accounts, and then they're running like ZK proofs on it so that maybe without like giving away all the details of Hyperrhythm is this active manager, that maybe they like kind of have their secret sauce. Like they found a really good trade where they're like, they don't want to tell everyone what their trade is, but there's some way that you can kind of verify they are doing what they say they're doing, and they're not just like moving funds and running a Ponzi.
What's that website that you are? What's that website that you are on?
This is Accountable, which is a solution for providing verification on what's
accountable data on X.
Accountable.capital is what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah. Interesting. I actually saw them as sponsors of Stable Summit or Vault Summit. I'm pretty sure.
They've been making a big push lately. And I think there are some other companies doing similar things too. And, even behind Ethena, like their services powering that. I'd have to go to Ethena's dashboard to see if they're using like someone like Accountable. But basically, a lot of companies trying to answer this question of, say Ethena has like $10 billion, they're moving it these different places. How can you like not just take Ethena's word for it? Can you actually see some proof that those funds do sit in these different places?
With the amount of money that is gonna be secured this way or guaranteed this way, like it obviously creates another industry of like, trying to verify like off-chain funds in different way, like, and trying to really verify this the gap between off-chain and on-chain, and it actually makes sense. I should try and interview them. Actually,
you should.
It sounds really interesting, I must say.
You should. I think there's a lot of people doing cool work in this space, and yeah, it's a good problem to solve. And the last thing I'll say too is just, I don't know if we mentioned this in one of the past chats, but this like making sure people are doing what they say they're supposed to be doing with your money. Like, this isn't like a DeFi getting rugged problem. This stuff happens in traditional finance too. Like, there were these big established lending firms that like all had exposure to this like auto parts company earlier this year into last year that just cooked its books, and they were actually like saying they're pledging the same collateral to like 2 or 3 different loans that were written, and then things went bad, and everyone came knocking on their door, and they were like,
yeah. But that's the whole point. Like, in traditional finance, there is not even an attempt to bridge that gap. Meaning, there's like only, I know, if you're like if you're very savvy and into it, Otherwise, there's not even an attempt to play as if you know where the money is coming from. You know what I mean? It's all like reputation. Oh yeah, no, these guys are great. Like, this is a huge bank. Yeah, they're great. They've been doing it for years, and all that kind of stuff. And again, for the average user, that's all they want, because they don't have any time to deal with it. They only want to tell themselves, I don't know, I need to focus on my life, on my job, on making my own money, and I have to have someone more savvy than I am to deal with my funds. DeFi in many ways is a movement of people who are like, no, I have to at least try and know what's going up with my funds, because all these people claiming that they know better and that they will protect my funds, they're actually either completely clueless or scammers, or some of them are great, but I have no way to tell.
Yep. I mean, that's the ethos, right? Like, the whole Bitcoin Genesis block is, kind of not trusting what the governments were doing during the great financial crisis, and people having money stuck in banks that you wake up the next morning, the government tells you your money was only worth 50% what it was yesterday, that they took some haircut on your bank account. So yeah, I think that's the ethos of it. I think, at least for me, kind of being Ethereum build and in this ecosystem, I think Ethereum is a little bit more optimistic of, Bitcoin's really purist, and Ethereum's yeah, but we have tech to do all this cool stuff, and we kind of trust that, we'll keep building these new solutions that let us do more things. I don't know where I was going with that, but
who knows?
we've got the tools, we've got the tech, and we're working on the tech if we don't already have it to just make this stuff work better and more transparent.
By the way, I will ask you about something that we haven't talked about before, but I'm curious if you have any opinion on it, or if you're at all familiar with it, because I'm really not, but at some point I'm not so sure that I should stay so uninformed about it. Do you have any opinion on stuff like Zcash?
I don't. I don't feel that's not something I've gone that deep into.
Yeah. I have this friend that keeps telling me that I should, because it's very much like some kind of an interpretation of the Bitcoin use case, presenting also the privacy angle. But it does tell me that, there are ways to actually use that money. And of course, there are some assumptions that you make with any thing, and it's not as rich. also like it's not like with Ethereum. Like I think what's really drawing me to Ethereum is the fact that like we talked earlier, it's slowly but surely swallowing the entire financial and internet world.
Right.
You know, like it is the widest movement, and like something's going on. You know what I mean? And you can actually feel it. Like programmable money is here, and even if it's very early stages of it, it's happening. But you know, for someone like me, what do I need? Like I want like money that they can't like confiscate because I didn't pay like a parking ticket or whatever. Okay. And but I also want like to be able to go to the grocery store and like buy some stuff without needing to explain to them, oh, listen, like, no, forget about the usual money. You should accept this token for me and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Like, no, they want their regular money. And I have to find ways to actually give them their regular money because they will not be convinced to hold whatever I will decide to hold.
Right.
And I think that in a way, like this realization after like the first few years in crypto, really is what attracted me to stablecoins, because you have to have stablecoins. Like this is how the world actually works. And I do think like, for me personally, stablecoins are the most interesting part of the industry because they actually touch on that exact point. But they actually did tell me, that friend of mine that I was mentioning, that like with something like Zcash, there are today some kind of opportunities that like he actually uses it to go to the shop, and like the transfer, the transaction happens somehow, but he actually goes and shops with it, and then it's completely private, and again, like with his own risks of holding a ZEC or what happens to that token, but with other benefits for that matter as well. So actually, I am becoming kind of curious about it, and if any of you knows who I should be talking to or interviewing about it, let me know. You know, we've mentioned government so much that I think it really brings us to our final topic of the day.
Oh, that's right.
And you know, even before you, which is World Liberty Financial and what's going on there. I would actually, if you don't mind, I will show a tweet by a friend of mine about this exact thing. And I did see some other tweets about it, but after I'll show this one, I want you to see it as well. And maybe you can give us some of your own thoughts about what's been going on, because I know that I have like some thoughts on what's been going on. And it doesn't, like, let's say it this way, I would not be lending my USDC for that yield at World Liberty Financial. This one is from Johnny Online. Shout out Johnny Online. By the way, he's building a protocol called Flex. He's one of the contributors of Yearn, by the way. He's actually the creator of the Yearn version of the Bold token by YSY Bold, and he's working on this new lending project called Flex Meow, soon trademark, as they say. One of the smartest people I know in the space and a good friend, and he actually sent this to me yesterday. Was head down building recently, but this deserves a shout. KOL's shilling high yield on lending USDC against WLFI. Around 5 billion WLFI marked at 500 million. Sell 1% of it and watch 60% disappear in slippage. The best to ever do it. This is quoting this one by WLFI, promising very high yields, at least relative for now, for people who want to park their USDC. But I think that the argument that he's saying there, that once people will want to cash out of the WLFI that they are earning and get their USDC back, it might not be the case. And this is actually happening on Dolomite, if I understand correctly. Dolomite, and according to at least what I was told and saw some people tweeting about, people are saying that Dolomite is just going to be stuck with this debt.
Probably so. And if the people with World Financial who are making these big borrows don't pay back, and I think the story is that this is kind of like 2021, 22 playbook. This is basically what like Alameda and SBF were doing with the Solana tokens that they had a bunch of, with these projects that were like low float or low supply, low
What does it
circulating
mean
supply
exactly,
tokens.
low float, by the way? Can you explain this term again?
It's say like you launch a project and you say this has 100 million governance tokens that are going to be in existence, but only like 5% are in circulation. The rest are all locked, So Alameda maybe has like another, they have 1 million on there that they're able to move around today. They have these other like 50 million out there. And
this
then
is like,
Alameda was going to people and being like, look, we have 51 million governance tokens, and the market says they're each worth like 10 cents. But once those 50 million flood the market, they're going to be worth a whole lot less than that.
This is like that vesting cliff reached meme. Right?
Yeah. So basically, like, people lend you a bunch more money than they probably should because maybe
this concept of like fake liquidity.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what the tweet's saying. Like, there's all this WLFI token that's worth a lot. Like, if you take the number that's locked here in the Dolomite contract and you multiply it by this price that shows on CoinGecko, but it's because like maybe just no one is selling that much today. And like the only people who could sell a bunch to move the price are these insiders. And so, if the price went down tomorrow and Dolomite, just like any lending market, if they had to liquidate some positions, they're going to sell a bunch, and maybe the price is going to drop like 50 or 80%. And or maybe, so even if today, you're only lending like $1 million against 5 million in collateral, in this case, it's a lot bigger numbers. You might think there's like quite a bit of cushion there that like the liquidations are going to happen before you have to worry about getting your money back. But especially with World Liberty Financial, I think they're borrowing and then they're looping through it, so the exposure is even worse.
Basically, let's say it's like people are saying it, like they're just extracting a whole lot of money against their WLFI tokens and getting it, and basically there will be no way to actually make sure that they repay.
Yeah, you get your USDC back if you're lending USDC.
Let me
let
me pop another. Sorry.
Back to like where we started this too. It's one of those things like Dolomite, maybe pretty good smart contracts, pretty good protocol, but obviously something not great in governance with like how they added this WLFI collateral, the parameters for like how much you can borrow against your World Liberty Financial and like how much you're allowed to put in. It seems like they could have been a lot more conservative on that. So, and not only to understand the risk, you have to understand the smart contracts, how they work. You have to understand like how governance works, and you have to have like good risk people to say like, well, we understand the WLFI token. We see its liquidity here. We think if there is this bad event, price would drop by this much. So we're going to let people borrow, that much less this buffer. That's the intricacies of this stuff. And that's why, if you're following the Aave conversation, like risk managers are leaving and people are worried about that. That's why, because you need these good risk people driving those decisions and watching your back like all the time.
It's so true, it's such an interesting point actually, because like a project can be built by the best and they have the best contracts and they have like a great mechanism, all that. But if they take like wrong decisions about onboarding even just one wrong collateral, in many ways, it's a done deal.
That's right.
It's quite insane. I want to show what Schlag wrote about it, another great contributor of Yearn. Just a second, let me pop it up on the screen. He also addressed it. Oh, it's here. Schlag, you can follow him at SCHLAGONIA on X. At first, you may think that 500 million of collateral that would eat a 50% haircut if even 1% of it was liquidated may be bad. But then you realize that 70 to 80% of the borrowed stables are recursively, I think that's what you're trying to explain there, but or explained actually, are recursively borrowed and supplied by the team's multisig, so it's totally fine and definitely not a scam at all. Yeah, again, like, what can I say? I know it's basically, I think we all know who's behind the World Liberty Financial product. And what can I say? I would not be putting my USDC, even that for that high yields over there. And I'm not qualified to give any financial advice, but I do allow myself to give you guys the advice of think twice before you put your USDC there, and consider going to some of these places that Tyler showed us earlier that you get 3% on. At least you will be more likely to keep your money afterwards, even if it's less percentage-wise. So yeah, that's quite a crazy story. You know, I must say that when I saw the tweets about this one yesterday, I was like, oh my God, wow. I didn't take that into consideration. It even raises a lot of questions that I'm not even sure I want to raise here, because I like some of the people involved. What can I say? Be careful, guys. Be careful, guys, because like people are out there and they are trying to get your money. They're really trying.
Yep. Be careful and, do your homework. And if you don't know, then probably just don't put your money there, or ask your friends, or just post something on Twitter. You'll probably get like me or Schlag in your replies, talking about this.
Yeah. Some people do care and they do want to spread the message out, and that's just great, actually. Tyler, thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed this. Anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
Same thing as always. Just like, if you have questions about DeFi stuff, you have questions about what you're seeing on vaults.fyi, or you want to see a feature, just reach out to me. Like we started the show, my Twitter handle is 0x7477. Reply to my stuff or DM me there, and I'm always happy to chat.
Well, you can also, of course, track over 1,000 vaults over at vaultsfyi, app.vaults.fyi.
That's right. That's correct.
App.vaults.fyi. Definitely check it out. No matter what kind of angle you're in the space for, you can find that app quite useful. Thank you so much for your time and input, and for all the stories that you brought us here today. I really enjoyed this one. I will just give another shout out to the SQUID Pass holders of the week at Regnum Aurum. RAC, today it's already RAC. I'm so used to the Regnum Aurum name that was initially, that I keep getting back to it because I like it so much. But today it's called RAC, RAAC.io, with their new launch of IRIT. Let me just pop it up on screen here. They've released this new article. You can find it on the pinned post on Leviathan News X and Telegram. With their article, they've put 16 rental properties on chain with the IRIT launch, routing 34.5K a month in tenant income through Curve. Rent money is coming on chain, guys. Again, do your due diligence about that as well. It's basically the whole concept of our show, me and Tyler's, is the fact that you have to realize where the yield is coming from. You have to do your own diligence, and you have to decide whether you're willing and are into taking a specific risk, and to decide if you know what you're doing. Personally, I really like the RAC guys. But of course, you need to make sure that you know what you are doing. And if you yourself find this to be something that is worth your investment, check out their article and their account at rac.fi, RAACFI. Shout out to K Crusher and MD and Florian, actually. Really appreciate you guys choosing Leviathan News again. With your sponsorship. Thank you so much for joining the SQUID Pass. We'll have one in the next few days, again, the auction for next week. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Follow us at Leviathan News. Follow me at DAdvisoor. Follow Tyler at 0x7477, and follow vaultsfyi on X and YouTube. And we'll send you off with the clip, like I enjoy doing. Shout out to Arcos for the amazing video, and have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
それはレバヤさんニュースだ。デセットライズだ。逃げろ。誰でも音できる。誰でもスキルを稼げる。ガバナンスまである。中州圏のメディアはもう終わりだ。